For me, the reason I've always loved being a one-person team is because I'm pretty multidisciplinary as a person. I have the science background, so I'm into spreadsheets and research and automation and coding and all those kinds of things. But then I also have the sort of artsy, I ran a blog for fun writing kind of background. And so it allows being able to have both of those hats on, be sort of like very research minded versus creative minded, lends itself really well to sort of being able to take on all kinds of jobs. And I think also it's the best practice you can get as a marketer. When you're on a large team and you're just a piece in the cog, you get a small sort of scope of work, right? You're normally just a writer, or you're just the SEO person, or you're just the product marketer, versus when you're on a one-person team, you have to learn all those things to survive. And it's a very good test, especially early on in your career, of what you actually enjoy doing. And sort of you test out all these different areas. What are my superpowers? And then that teaches you a lot about yourself and what you like and what you don't. I even see like marketing targeted towards me. That's like, are you a one-person team that's so strapped and your life is so hard and you hate your life? And that's like the complete opposite of how I feel as a one-person team. I think the downsides are kind of obvious from the outside, right? Like you don't have as many people, you can't do as much, but the positives are, to me, completely outweigh the negatives, especially based on kind of the personality type I am and how I like to work. So like when you're a one-person team, all the red tape goes away. And I personally get frustrated with like lots of feedback rounds, getting approval, getting budget approval, content approval, legal approval, all that just goes away. When you're a one-person team, you can kind of just come up with an idea, produce it. If you like it, you keep working on it. If you don't like it, you stop. I think also you can really just move so much faster than you expect as a one-person team. I think I and lots of one-person teams actually get more things done than 2 or 3 people teams, just because of the amount of time. Like you have to onboard somebody to your team. That takes a good 50% of your time as a leader. And so unless you have the sort of critical mass of 5+ more people, I actually think having a one-person team works better than having a small team. Startups often need these one-person teams to start who are very multidisciplinary, especially from a content perspective, because if the first marketing hire in your one-person team is only a content person and they're like a writer in that very narrow sense versus sort of one-person marketing team, then the product marketing skill set often isn't there, or the growth marketing, or like even maybe you have some knowledge in paid ads or social best practices, etc. I think even if you're sort of a T-shaped marketer where writing is your strongest skill set or content is your strongest skill set, if you have that wide base of skills, it makes you a really attractive first hire to startups. So the last 3 companies I worked at, it was like, yeah, we need a bit of SEO, we need a bit of sales enablement, we need a bit of social media. And it was, there's fewer of those people on the market, I think, because people avoid, often you'll see discussion like we said before of like, oh, those are red flag job descriptions where there's a huge list of tasks to be done and people say avoid those jobs like the plague. And I have the total opposite perspective that those are exactly the kinds of jobs I want. And you also have far less competition for those jobs because people avoid them. So I think there's a built-in demand, especially in a world where less marketing jobs are in-house now. So I've seen a lot in the last 5 years that the more typical model is very small in-house team with lots of freelancers, and therefore like the skill of being able to sort of manage yourself and a bunch of freelancers is super in demand right now. So especially as a team of one, I think automation is something I've really leaned into in the past 2-3 years. In the same way that a lot of people are excited about AI, I've been trying to use things like Airtable and Zapier and connecting tools together in Slack and connecting everything together just to make my life a little bit easier. And so the way I think about automation mainly, and this is a little obvious, but like anything that I have to do 5+ times, anything that's really repeated every single week or every single month, it's almost always worth the time investment up front. To like, it's going to take 1, 2, 3 hours sometimes to set up some automations, but I'm kind of investing in myself and investing in my own time, and paying that forward to myself in future months. One thing I always say is that automation isn't just about like saving time or getting more done, or like the do more with less thing, and that is true in some ways, but the biggest thing I like to think of it as is like, it frees up my headspace for like important things like thinking, because like I'm talking about for this blog, all these end-to-end processes, like, yes, I could say like, okay, this saved me so much time on making a blog, or I could say, I'm going to reinvest that time that I saved on making the brief just so good for the writer that I know that the output is going to be amazing. Like I'll spend 2 hours on a brief now. I would never spend 2 hours on the brief if I also had to like do all these other tasks. And so it's kind of like reallocating your mind space for higher impact things is the way I like to think about it. Not just like automating things for the sake of automating, or like being more productive.